I used to think love meant making myself smaller. Smaller for my husband. Smaller for my classroom. Smaller for the son I raised with my own two hands. I never once asked for thanks, until the night he looked me in the eye, at his own dinner table, and called me a burden. That word broke something in me. But it also woke something up. And I never shrank again. My name is Eleanor. I'm 68 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that a good mother disappears a little more every year, so there's more room for everyone else. I made myself smaller for my husband, God rest him. I made myself smaller for my classroom, 30 years of other people's children. And when my son Daniel grew up and had children of his own, I made myself smaller for them too. I didn't mind it. Not really. Not until the night he called me a burden. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were the nights I cooked dinner for Daniel's family, had been, for almost 2 years, ever since Rachel went back to work and things got tight for them. I didn't ask for thanks. I just showed up with a casserole dish and a smile, because that's what mothers do. Or so I thought. That night, we were talking about the guest room. Daniel had offered, months earlier, that I could move in if things ever got hard living alone in the house Frank and I had raised him in. I brought it up casually, just testing the idea, really, because the house had gotten quiet in a way that scared me sometimes. Daniel didn't answer right away. He looked at Rachel. She looked at her plate. And then he said it, tired and sharp, the way people say things when they've been holding them in too long. Mom, I love you, but we can barely handle our own lives right now. I can't take on being responsible for you too. You'd be a burden. The word landed somewhere behind my ribs. I don't think he meant for it to sound the way it did. I think he was exhausted, and scared of his own life, and I happened to be standing in the blast radius. But knowing that didn't make it hurt less. I finished my coffee. I told him it was late and I should get home. And I drove back to my empty house in silence, because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't come out as either tears or accusations, and I wasn't ready to give him either one. That night, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I thought about Frank, and how he used to tell me I gave too much of myself away. I thought about 30 years of a classroom full of children who weren't mine, and a house full of quiet that was. And I thought about what it would mean to stop making myself smaller. So I made a decision. Not a dramatic one, no slammed doors, no ultimatums. I simply began, quietly, to build a life of my own. I sold the big house. It had too many rooms for one woman and too many memories that ached more than they comforted. I found a small apartment near downtown, above a bakery, with windows that caught the morning light. It was strange, at first, to buy furniture that no one else had chosen for me. Strange to cook a meal for one person and not feel like I was failing at something. The first few weeks were hard. I won't pretend they weren't. I fixed a leaking faucet myself, cursing under my breath the whole time, and when the water finally stopped dripping, I sat on my kitchen floor and cried, not out of sadness, but because I had done something entirely on my own, and it had worked. That's when I met Peg. She lived 2 doors down, a retired nurse with a laugh like a foghorn and absolutely no patience for self-pity. She knocked on my door with a plate of lemon bars and said, "You look like someone who just remembered she has a spine. Come have coffee." I did. And I kept doing it, most mornings after that. I started volunteering at the library, reading to children on Saturday mornings, the way I used to read to my own students. I joined a book club that argued more about wine than literature. I planted tomatoes on my balcony, which mostly died, but I planted them again anyway. Slowly, without announcing it to anyone, I became someone I actually recognized. Daniel called sometimes. Short, careful conversations. He never mentioned that night, and neither did I. I think he was waiting for me to bring it up, to demand an apology, so he could either give it or defend himself. I didn't give him the chance to do either. I simply lived. What he didn't know was that Rachel had started visiting me, quietly, without telling him at first. She'd show up with her youngest on a Sunday afternoon, and we'd sit on my little balcony while the tomatoes struggled bravely in their pots. "He didn't mean it the way it sounded," she told me once. "But I saw your face, Eleanor. I saw it, and I didn't say anything, and I felt sick about that for months." I told her I didn't need her to fix it for him. That some things a person has to carry to their own door before they knock. And carry it he eventually did. It turned out that a house doesn't run only on love, it runs on all the small, invisible things a person does without being asked. The Tuesday dinners. The last-minute babysitting. The gentle presence that smooths over 100 little frictions before they become arguments. Without me there, Daniel and Rachel's life didn't collapse, but it strained. Dishes piled up. Tempers shortened. The children noticed their parents were tired in a new, sharper way. Daniel showed up at my apartment on a Sunday in early spring, unannounced, standing at my door with his hands in his pockets like a boy waiting outside the principal's office. "I've been thinking about that night," he said. 4 months. I keep hearing myself say that word, and I hate it every time. I invited him in. I made tea, because that's what you do, even when your heart is pounding. He didn't ask me to move back in. He didn't offer excuses about being tired or stretched thin, though I knew both were true. Instead, he said something I hadn't expected. "I think I called you a burden because somewhere along the way, I started believing that needing help makes a person weak. And I think I was scared that if I let you lean on us, it meant admitting I couldn't hold everything together on my own. I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. You were never the burden, Mom. I think I was just afraid of becoming one myself." I sat with that for a long moment. Not because I needed to make him wait, but because I needed to feel whether the words were true, or just comfortable. They were true. I told him I forgave him, because I did, eventually, though it took longer than that one Sunday afternoon. I told him I wasn't coming back to being invisible, though. That the guest room offer, kind as it was, had never really been about me having a place to live. It had been about me having a place to disappear into. We're still building something new, Daniel and I. Not the old shape of things, where I gave everything and asked for nothing. Something more honest. He calls just to talk now, not just when he needs something. He brings the kids to my apartment instead of asking me to come make dinner in his kitchen. Small things. Real ones. I still live in my little apartment above the bakery. I still argue about wine at book club. Peg still shows up with lemon bars on the mornings I need them most, and somehow, she always seems to know which mornings those are. I think about that Tuesday sometimes, the word that knocked the wind out of me. I'm not grateful for the way it was said. But I am, in a strange and complicated way, grateful for what it forced me to become. I was never a burden. I had just forgotten, for a very long time, that I was allowed to take up space of my own. I don't think I'll forget again.